Morning. So this opening E chorus, the chords are different, and it sounds, so the chords will ring differently from others. There's a lot of drones going on all the time. Hopefully I'll be a little sugar in your morning coffee today. Anybody here is Stephen Foster?
I live near him.
Oh, really?
I do.
Stephen Foster, born 1826, lived just 37 years, left 286 songs. Kentucky State Song, Florida State Song, Camptown Races, I Dream of Jeannie with the light brown hair, Beautiful Dreamer. Beautiful Dreamer used everywhere, even today. There's a commercial that I saw about a year ago, and I was like, holy cow, if he only knew. And this is probably his most famous, maybe. Well, I come from Alabama with his banjo on my knee, and I'm bound for Louisiana, my own true love for to see. It done rained all night the day I left, the weather was bone dry, the sun so hot I froze to death. Susanna, don't you break down and cry. I said, oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. Yeah, I come from Alabama with this banjo on my knee. I had a dream the other night when everything was still. I thought I saw my girl Suzanne, she was coming around the hill. A buckwheat cake was in her mouth, a tear was in her eye. Says I'm coming from the south. Susanna, don't you break down and cry. I said, oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with this banjo on my knee. I soon will be in New Orleans, and then I'll look around. When I find Susanna, I'll fall upon the ground. If I do not find her, yeah, I will surely die. And when I'm dead and buried, Susanna, don't you break down, that's the breakdown chord, and cry. I said, oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with this banjo on my knee. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with, one more time, banjo on my knee. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with this banjo on my knee. Yeah, bravo, I do. Greg Allman, anybody know the name? Allman Brothers wrote a beautiful song about a hobo. Oh, let me get it. Hang on for a second. My wife, Arlene Elliott, happened to write a poem in the same thing. I think it serves as a nice introduction to Greg's song, but then I might be a little biased. Seeing the side door slightly agape, I leaped into the boxcar and roll along with the movement of the train. Uprighting myself, stealth movements, dangling my legs, sitting on the edge, looking out. Rushing past, smear of green fields, brushstroke of brown dirt roads, deep black streak of highway parallels, then disappears. Alone I ride, rock of the rail, keeping time with the song in my mind. Wind pushing me backward, catching my balance, holding tight. On I ride, riding the rails, hobo, tramp, homeless wanderer. Life on the edge of the boxcar. Crossroads seem to come and go. The gypsy flies from coast to coast, knowing many, loving none, bearing sorrow, having fun. When back home, you'll always run to sweet Melissa. Freight train, each car looks the same, all the same. But no one knows a gypsy's name. No one hears his lonely sigh. There are no blankets where he lies. But in the deepest dreams, a gypsy flies to sweet Melissa. Again the morning's come, again he's on the run. Sunbeam shining through his hair, better not to have a care. Pick up your gear and gypsy roll on and on. Crossroads, will you ever let him go? Or will you hide the dead man's ghost? Will he lie beneath the plains? Will his spirit float away? But I know he won't stay without Melissa. Yes, I know he won't stay without Melissa. Got so dry after that poem. It's like, oh, okay, how are we going to get through this? I worked for a fellow once, and oh, wrong song. Okay, Greg Allman's brother, Dwayne. In their time together, he wrote, as far as I know, just one song, and they recorded that one song, and it's called Little Martha. So I worked for this fella, and I've never seen anybody who can multitask like him. And he did everything so absolutely well. And in my mind, he was always like here, here, and here. So I wrote this song about him. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and probably doesn't matter that you know all about that, but you know, that's how it came about. You know, songs come, it's different for different people, but for me, songs come, it's just like an initial idea, and sometimes I just record those and I go back to them and I keep saying, what does this want? What does this want? What are you looking for? You know, woodworkers may have the same experience. You know, it's like you have a piece of wood in your hand and it's like, what does this want to be? And then somehow it tells you what it wants to be, right? Michelangelo said the same thing about that towering piece of marble that became the statue of David. So it's interesting. Anyway, that's what happens. So this is called Mark's Mele. And in Hawaiian, because we were in Hawaii, in Hawaiian, mele means song, so it's Mark's song. The spelling is almost the same as melee, so it kind of goes along. So let's see if I can do this. being a guitarist, I love your sound of your music, but I know nothing about the guitar, but it's beautiful. Can you tell me, explain to me the difference of what you're doing and what other people do? Sure. So on a guitar in standard tuning, you have to finger in order to get the sound of a chord. So, but in open tuning, it's tuned to a chord already. So I can kind of be dumb and not know anything or at all and be able to play a song. I was feeling. You bet.
So what is the tuning of the strings in the open tuning?
This particular one, there are many open tunings. This particular one is E tuning, so it's just like an E chord. It's E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. Let me check my tuning.
Does that lend itself well to slide?
It does. This is a slide, one of two slide intensive, meaning that people play it all the time in slide. If you're familiar, I brought up Greg Allman and Dwayne Allman. Dwayne was, probably of his time the best slide player of all time, and he played in E. So if you listen to any of that Allman Brothers stuff, all of that slide, everything is.
So Little Martha was written for.
Little Martha.
Okay.
Yeah, Little Martha's in E. Yeah, that's what it was written in. But on that recording, it's actually two guitars. It starts as one, and then it's two guitars, and it's just so gorgeous the way it's done. And you try to, how do I get that? How do I get close to that? So.
Get another guitar.
Yeah. Are you ready?
So other guitarists don't do this particular. What does their string sound like? Just a plain chord?
If you hit it, it sounds like dog do.
So you have to do it with the fingers.
You have to finger in standard tuning, yes. And there are other tunings too. There's a tuning called drop D that you use the same chord fingerings with standard, but because of the lower string, it just gives it this really beautiful sound.
Whatever you're doing, you're doing good.
Thank you. Thanks, Charles.
Looks like he is master.
Okay. This is a new song for me. So this was written by an Irish harpist, and he was born 1670, am I right? Turlock O'Carolan. Yeah, and this is called Shebeg Shimor, and what that means is Little Fairy Hill, Big Fairy Hill. So apparently in Ireland, fairies live in hills. So. Isn't it great how these songs are so old and you can still just love them to death? It's just, you know, there's just simply nothing like music, you know? Life rides on melody. That's, you know, that's really it. Kids play. I'm going to end up, do I have time? Yeah, I think I have time. I'm going to end up with 3 songs that I wrote. This first one is called Kids Play. So, in Hawaii, it's always a big deal. Where did they come from? They came from someplace in Micronesia. They built these huge double-hulled canoes, and they sailed by the stars. And so there's so much about that voyage. And they've actually built, you know, today, 20 years ago or so, they started building these double-hulled canoes, and they started sailing around, and they have sailed everywhere in the Pacific and the South Pacific by the stars. So it's pretty amazing. Anyway, this song is called Kahola Moana, and that means the voyage. So this songs, instrumental songs can tell a story. So the first part of this is the nice simple voyage, and then there are splashes of water coming out over the prow, and that's represented by the harmonics. And in the middle of the song there's a storm, and then the storm calms down, and then we're back to the nice quiet seas. Anyway, you let me know if it works for you. it's similar to a slack key style. It's kind of interesting because it's slack key is very the traditional music all sounds similar, and so when I started playing this, even though the Hawaiian music was my inspiration and that that softness of it was, I considered it a bastardized slack key. But apparently I did some recording in a studio, and it was a commercial studio. It wasn't a record producing studio. And the owner of the studio, he did work, with commercials and, all that stuff. And he proposed this next song to Hawaiian Airlines. Okay. I should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, thank you all very much.